I got to show you these two polls from Quinnipiac. The mathematics are not good if your name is Donald Trump. First of all, this measures the Speaker of the House against the President of the United States. Who do you trust? Respondents answered Pelosi over Trump, 49-42. I'm guessing that'll get his attention, as will this. His approval underwater, 57-38. And John, that's an existential threat to his presidency, yes, but that also represents kind of a numeric challenge to his presidency.
It's true, although let's remember, this president, and this is a pattern we've seen in with recent presidencies, but it's much more acute. And this one has got a ceiling and a floor that are not that far apart, Brian. There's only so high a president as polarizing and controversial as Donald Trump is going to go. There's only so low he's going to go. Given the solidness of his support, I think it seems to me at the moment he's very close to that floor.
What is he left to say in a State of the Union, John? Can you guess at it? This is going to be unlike any other State of the Union in modern times. Not many people in that chamber will share his number one priority of a wall.
No, and not many people will be, certainly not his fellow Republicans, will be applauding the tactics that he's used over the past couple of months to try to push for that wall. It's been very unpopular with rank and file Republicans. They know they lost that confrontation with Nancy Pelosi. President Trump, remember, he has been effective in this format. He was not effective in his Oval Office speech a few weeks ago. But if you go back to his first address to Congress, people were saying, gosh, that actually sounded more like a traditional president that we're accustomed to hearing at an address to a joint session of Congress. So, I mean, it's certainly an opportunity for him to be seen, try to be seen at least somewhat in a presidential light. Over the past couple of months, he's not been seen in a classic presidential way. He's been seen as preeminently a partisan figure and a divisive figure. That's a terrible place for any president to be, and it's reflected in Donald Trump's terrible numbers.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.